Breaker, breaker, linehaul Lonnie here. Anybody got a copy? Come on. Okay, as I mentioned in my previous segment that I was going to make some reference to some trucking songs. Well, I'd like to make reference to one of them there, called On the Road Again by Willie Nelson. And then also I'd like to make reference to one by Alabama. It's called Roll On 18-Wheeler. Cool story with that one is when my daughter was younger and that song came out, we played at home, and she couldn't say L's very good, so she would sing Roll On 18-Wiener. Daddy drives an 18-wheeler and we sure miss him when he's gone. Kind of funny. And also another song that I want to make reference to is Eastbound and Down, which came from the movie Smokey and the Bandit by Jerry Reed. Give them guys a listen when you guys got time, and hope you guys enjoy them. Okay, as in my previous segment, I told everybody some stories about when I was younger, growing up at a trucking company. So once in a while, I would go out on the odd Friday night with one of the line haul drivers and go to Kamloops or Invermere or Cranbrook, or we're just on a short little trip and return back on Saturday. It was a great learning curve. Learned a lot by watching the guys and listening to stories that they tell me. It was really cool. This one Friday night, the terminal manager's son, Bob Hill, who actually owns Hill Brothers Expressways now, him and I went out with two separate drivers. He went with Raymond LeCure out to Invermere, and I rode down to Invermere with a fellow by the name of Kenny Bradwell. And when we did arrive into Invermere, they both crawled in the bunks and went to bed. And Bobby and I, we went up in the terminal in Invermere and we unloaded the one trailer that was LTL freight and put it all on the dock, except for one order for Invermere hardware. It was a couple hundred pieces, so it stayed on the trailer and they were going to deliver it off the trailer. So in the meantime, Bill Fenton, the terminal manager for Invermere for Old Hams Transport at that time, he arrived and he woke everybody up and made them all coffee. And in the meantime, Bobby and I, we didn't know what to do, so we asked if they wanted us to deliver that Invermere hardware, and they said sure. So Bobby and I climbed up into the cab over Freightliner, and we drove a block down to the hardware store in Invermere. We backed up to the door in the back alley. I got out, opened up the trailer doors, and Bob come walking down, and the guy at the Invermere hardware store, he's looking around saying, "Where's the driver?" You know, he's looking all over the place. And Bobby says, "That's us. Here's your bills for the freight." And he says, "Yeah, me and him run double. We run double out of Calgary." And we were 14 years old at the time. It was quite comical. And he's running around the store telling everybody that would listen that these kids drove this truck from Calgary. They run double. And so we proceeded to empty off the freight, and we pulled ahead, closed the doors, and we drove it out of the alley and back to the terminal and parked the truck and trailer. And then we went in and kind of had a good chuckle with the guys, and we told them our story. And so then when we were all said and done, I ended up going back home with Bobby and Raymond back to Calgary because Kenny Bradwell carried on to Cranbrook. So that was kind of a cool little story, you know, so it was really good. It was a lot of fun. So moving on, as I promised, the hint, tip of the day. As it's starting to become close to being wintertime, and times we should be watching is the road services for ice. When you are running down the highway or in a city road, and say it's around freezing or near freezing, and the roads are wet, the first place that the road is going to freeze will be wherever there's air under the highway, i.e. a culvert, bridge deck, bridge going over a river, an overpass. They'll be the first places where the water will turn to ice. And should you ever encounter that, don't panic. Don't take your foot off the throttle and hit the brakes, because that will put you into a skid situation. You're better off to steer straight, ease up on the throttle, keep a little bit of torque to the wheels, and hopefully that'll get you across the bridge, no problems. So I hope that keeps you guys all motoring safe this winter, and there's the tip of the day. Now, as I promised, the joke of the day. The first one, it's a driver, he's in the States, and he's looking to get hired on to a big trucking company, and he's talking to the person in charge, and he says, well, if you hire me, you got to hire me, Leroy. And the guy says, well, who's Leroy? He says, Leroy's my swamper. Me and him been together 17 years. And the guy says, oh, well, we need drivers pretty bad. I'll tell you what, if you can pass the test, we'll hire you and Leroy. And the first part of the test is oral. He says, okay, quick now. He says, supposing you're coming down a mountain, you've been coming down for a couple of miles, and your brakes have overheated, and you have no brakes, and you're leveled off at 90 miles an hour, and you're coming up to a single axle bridge, or a single lane bridge, and there's a semi jackknifed in the middle of the bridge. Quick, what's the first thing you would do? Well, he says, the first thing I'd do, I'd reach over and wake up Leroy. He says, why would you wake up Leroy? He says, because me and Leroy have been together 17 years, and he ain't never seen no wreck like we's fixing to have. Hope you guys enjoyed that. And the other joke I have for you is, give me a second, figure out the year. Oh, yeah, there's a trucker. He goes into a truck stop, and he's having his ham and eggs and coffee and having breakfast, and he's talking to the waitress, talking things over, and all of a sudden a group of motorbikes come driving in, and they get in there, and they're kind of in a mood, and they start giving the trucker a hard time and putting salt in his coffee and putting sugar on top of his eggs and just totally being annoying. And finally he's had enough, so he gets up, pays his bill, tells the waitress, see you next time, and out he goes. And people on the motorbike, they said to the waitress after he left, boy, that guy sure wasn't much of a sport, was he? She says, yeah, he's not much of a driver either, looking out the window. He just ran over 5 motorbikes. All right, well, that's all I have for you guys today. I'll bid you 10-7. Keep the shiny side up and the greasy side down, and have a great day. We gone. Bye-bye.